deal in the content space with AT&T and Time Warner, which really highlights the value of content and scale. And CBS will get that scale, will get that content with Viacom.
Another headline crossing that CBS Radio has filed for a proposed IPO.
They've been talking about this for a while. CBS has really been trying to reduce its reliance on advertising. It's just basically their way of trimming and slimming their operations and just focusing on TV content.
The challenges continue. The world's largest PC maker, Lenovo's revenue fell for a fourth straight quarter after its personal computer shipments slid. We're hoping for a recovery in the PC market. Doesn't seem so.
Yeah, so this just reflecting that slump that we've been seeing in the global PC market. Let me break down the numbers for you because, first of all, profit did beat estimates. Only problem was that it was mostly because of property sales that Lenovo carried out. That was a gain of more than $200 million. And this is not the first time that they've done this. This is the second consecutive quarter that they've actually had to unload real estate in order to boost their financials. So Lenovo acknowledges the challenges that they face. When they had the financial results, they said that the market conditions may remain tough in the short term. The company is investing to drive long-term profitable growth. Of course, they're competing with the likes of Dell, HP. In fact, Lenovo's lead over HP in PCs shrank to the smallest since it became the market leader back in 2013.
This is SEAG on the Bloomberg, and it looks at the monthly performance for the past several years of the S&P 500. So here for October, we've got a negative return of 1.9%. It's the worst month since January. It's the worst October going back to 2012. So definitely has been a negative month.
There are about 30,000 functions on the Bloomberg.
The Alawite minority, an offshoot of Shiite Islam, have been in power in Syria. This despite the fact that Alawites represent just 12% of the Syrian population. The Sunni Muslim population, however, represents around 60%. The current president, Bashar al-Assad, an Alawite, took over in 2000 after the death of his father, Syria's longtime ruler, Hafez al-Assad. Cut to 2011 and the Arab Spring. The world watched as uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt quickly toppled their respective dictators. Inspired by these events, Syrians took to the streets to protest the oppressive rule of Bashar al-Assad. But instead of stepping down, Assad violently crushed the peaceful uprisings using tanks, artillery, and gunships. Many of the protesters responded by arming themselves. That's when the conflict took on a sectarian nature. Sunnis from other parts of the Middle East, like the Saudis, threw their backing behind the rebels. Shiites, like the Iranians, gave their support to the regime. Meanwhile, the jihadists of the Islamic State, which used the turmoil to seize territory, attacked both sides. Then there are major powers like the US and Russia. After a poison attack in 2013, the US and Russia cooperated to get UN inspectors to destroy Syria's known chemical weapons. But in general, the two powers have skewed in very different directions over this war. Simply put, the US is against Assad and Russia supports him. Russia has used its UN Security Council veto repeatedly to protect the regime. Both countries are actively fighting inside Syria against Islamic State and an al-Qaeda spin-off in the name of combating terrorism. But Russia uses the terrorist tag to bomb other groups opposing Assad, including rebels supported by the US and its allies. Finally, there are the Syrian civilians in the middle of all of this. Devastated by the fighting and destruction, Syrians are fleeing by the millions into neighboring countries, straining resources and creating a global refugee crisis. Now here's the argument. The US and Russia agree on the need to end the war, but not on how. For years, the US has insisted Assad must go, but has since softened its stance on the dictator in the interest of the broader fight against the Islamic State. Meanwhile, Russia says it wants to keep Syria sovereign and independent by backing Assad. Several efforts to resolve the conflict through negotiations have failed. Neither side has had enough of an advantage in this war to get the other to compromise on terms for peace, nor has either been willing to do so for the sake of Syria.
That was just one of the many quick takes you can find on the Bloomberg. You can also find them at Bloomberg.com, along with all the latest business news and analysis